Hello, everyone. It's Denice with our devotional for Friday, May 21st. Continuing my deep dive into the 23rd Psalm, today I'm thinking about paths of righteousness. Throughout the whole history of the race, there runs a record of man's effort to find help and guidance in unraveling the mystery of life. We have refused persistently to believe life is an insoluble riddle. We will not admit that it is a dead end from which there is no escape save by death. We rise each morning in the hope that before night, we will be out on a highway that leads to glorious achievements. In spite of tragic delays and cruel disappointments, the race has gone on believing that there is a way by which life can be made to work, a way of life that will provide opportunities for the full development of personality, and which will result in peace, power, and happiness. Shrines have been erected, oracles have been consulted, and the stars have been searched in the hope that somewhere there was an answer to life's questions. Philosophers and scientists have wrestled with the problem. Life, even for David, in the midst of a simple civilization, was exacting and confusing. As head of the nation, he was responsible for a large part of the welfare of the people. Difficult and delicate decisions had to be made as a matter of daily duty. The destiny of the race was in his keeping. Again and again he was utterly bewildered. The real reason for the immortality of the 23rd Psalm lies in the fact that it solemnly declares that the riddle of life can be solved. In the face of stern demands of duty and confronted by complex problems and difficulties, David announced that he had found wisdom and help in the solution of life, entirely outside of himself. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. It is highly dangerous to judge life by appearances. Right looks so much like wrong, and wrong has so much of the appearance of right at times that we hesitate to trust our own judgments. The result oftentimes is near panic. It was said of Jesus that when he saw the people thus confused, he had compassion on them because they were as sheep having no shepherd. No generation has ever attempted to live in a day packed with more confusion and danger than ours. No one can know with any degree of certainty what the economic, social, and political confusion may bring forth. Such human leadership as we have is either inadequate or often corrupt. The only direction in which we can look with any hope for leadership is toward God. David declared that he had found such leadership in the shepherding of God, and that he had come out on the right path through following God's leadership. David testifies that God had never failed him. God's trademark is on every day. He cannot allow any day to become impossible. David knew there were few paths in the ravines where he herded his flocks, which were not rough and cluttered with stones. The sheep walks over which he led his sheep might be steep and difficult, but they always led somewhere, and ultimately they led home. His experience with God had taught him that the way in which God led him would come out somewhere at last. Perhaps it would be helpful if we keep in mind the fact that the supreme goal of life is not comfort, but character. This world of ours is a very poor world in which to be comfortable, for there is too much confusion in it and too many mistaken judgments. But it is the best possible world in which to develop character. If God had set out to make us comfortable, He would have made us clods of earth without the capacity for suffering. When He gave us power to become great, He was compelled to give us a capacity for great pain. There is a marked readiness on the part of many of us to lay the blame for our misfortunes to the charge of God. But even as a good shepherd can be defeated in his efforts to lead his flocks into green pastures and beside still waters if the sheep persists in taking their own way. The sheep that gets lost on the mountainside is usually the one that refuses the guidance of the good shepherd and sets out to find a way for itself. At the very heart of David's faith was the conviction that there was in his life an active and divine spirit which was endeavoring at all times to lead him into the paths of right living. Sometimes this spirit persuaded him, sometimes it goaded him, and sometimes it reasoned with him. But always David felt a pressure upon his life from without, turning him toward paths of right living, right thinking, and right laboring. Looking back over his life from the vantage point of old age, and counting upon the difficulties that had been compelled to pay him dividends, David looked straight into the eyes of life and said, "He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake." Amen.